Hello. Welcome back to Tour of the Palate, where we will be cooking food from Ecuador. Today we are going to be making a balón de verde, is what it's called. It's like green balls made out of plantains that are going to be fried, and we're going to make these balls. And then I'm also frying up some chorizo right now, which we're going to put inside of them. So yeah, tasty treats. Okay, so the ingredient spread. This is actually a pretty simple meal because, well, it's a meal. It's actually more of an appetizer than anything else because you could eat it as a whole meal if you wanted to, but okay. Plantains. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm looking at. So we've got plantains, which are these nifty things. They kind of look like bananas. These are green plantains. The skin is kind of tough to peel off. But yeah, once you do, you just cut it into little chunks like that. I've also got some chili powder and some cumin. And I also have ground peanuts. That's what's in the mortar. And that is going to be the plantains. I'll have to cook for about 40 minutes. That's going to take probably the longest. And then we're going to melt some butter, which I guess I did not show you the butter, but I butter not. There's butter right over here. We're going to melt that down, and then we're going to fry the plantains in the butter for 40 minutes. So that's going to take a little bit, and I'll probably stop the video throughout and then come back and do stuff a little bit later. But while that's cooking, we can talk about some things. First of all, hope everybody's week is going well. I actually had a really delicious meal. My lovely girlfriend, Sarah, made cacio e pepe for me, which was delicious. And some bruschetta. The tomatoes were so good. Man, it's just so cool that like some of your best memories in life are with meals and food that you eat with other people. That's a gift. So wanted to give her a special shout out. So we are going to cook this chorizo down a little bit. And once it's done, then we're going to pull that off. And we're going to get started. I can actually probably start cooking the plantains right now. So I'm going to melt this butter down. We're going to cook this over medium heat. So, like I said, it's going to take about 40 minutes. So I'm going to melt the butter, and then we'll get the plantains started. And then after the plantains are kind of like a nice golden, delicious color, then we will pull them off, mash them, form them into balls, and then stuff this chorizo in them. And I'm also going to put some of those peanuts that I crushed. They're supposed to be ground peanuts, but same kind of concept. I just crushed them down with a mortar and pestle. So yeah. Okay. I'm just going to pay attention to this chorizo for a minute or two so that nothing burns, because the last thing that we want to do is burn what we're making. Going to keep this going. Chorizo always smells so good. So with this particular recipe, you can do several different things. You can use a cup of cheese if you wanted to, some shredded cheese. You can, if you don't want to use chorizo. You can also do chicharrones, which are fried pork skins, which are very good and would give it kind of like a nice little crunch. Because after we form them into balls and then we put this filling inside of them, we're going to form them into a ball and then fry them in some oil just to kind of like crisp up the outside and to seal it back up. So yeah, some nice and tasty treats we got going on. How's everybody's week? Hopefully it's going well for you. I know I'm not unique in feeling this way, but kind of wishing it would cool off a little bit because it's been hot, like way too hot. Like I wanted to fry eggs, and I just thought about putting them outside, and a plate magically appeared in front of me and was like, "Here's some scrambled eggs for you." And I was like, "Whoa, the universe works in exactly the way it should." Also, for anybody, this maybe just goes out to everybody. If anyone right now is having a hard time just generally in life, my heart goes out to you. We live in a world that is filled with weirdness. It can feel like sometimes things don't really go your way, and that, I don't know, it can be frustrating and sad and depressing and all those kinds of things. There are so many good people and so many like wonderful, beautiful things to enjoy. And one thing that's really helped me, because there were some times, especially when COVID first started, where I was like, man, I just feel like this is in the, if you've seen Stranger Things, it's like the upside down where everything is just like Groundhog Day. Everything was the same thing, like same way over and over and over again. And instead of thinking like, oh, I have to, I think like, oh, I get to do these things. Like, I get to go for a walk. I get to do these things. Like, there are a lot of people out there that would trade places with you in a heartbeat. So that's, again, that's not to reduce anyone's suffering or pain. It's more to be a reminder of life is beautiful and wonderful, and there's always something to appreciate about the day. So maybe that is something that, what is the expression, sometimes sometimes life works in mysterious ways. That was really stupid of me to say out loud. Some thoughts are inside thoughts. Okay, so this butter is starting to melt down, and this chorizo is starting to kind of crisp up the bottom of the pan. So we're getting pretty close with this. It just needs to cook some of this liquid out. It smells really, 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 really good. Okay. Sometimes chorizo is kind of tough to tell when it's totally done, and as long as it's cooked through, it's kind of like just cooking sausage, where you get some, I'll show you. It's starting to get a little poppily. This may be just a helpful tip for everybody. When you're cooking meat, of course you want to sear things, but when you want to cook chicken or beef or anything, like to cook it through, you typically don't need to go on anything higher than medium heat. And using a neutral oil with a high smoke point, if you're looking like for something that's a good versatile thing to use, you can use sunflower oil. I know people will probably yell at me for talking about seed oils, but yeah, it's one of those things that makes your kitchen not turn into a smoke pit. Okay, so that butter's good, so we're going to go ahead and drop the plantains in. And just fill up the pan. And like I said, this needs to cook for like 40 minutes, so it's just like essentially frying them in butter, which is good. Butter's healthy, according to Paula Deen. Okie doke. This chorizo is almost done. I'm just going to set a timer because it's easier for me to keep track of stuff if I do that. So I'm going to set a timer for 40 minutes, and every 10 minutes I will flip it over. Okay, this chorizo is looking almost done. This is just to drain a little bit of the grease off, and then it'll be a nice filling for when it's done. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit more on the plantains. Okay, Looks tasty. Okie doke. It's getting close there. Just the sound of crackling while you're cooking is like such a soothing experience for me. I am always a fan of bacon crackling. If any of you have seen the Office episode where Michael grills his foot in a George Foreman. If you haven't seen it and if you've never even seen The Office and you're going to watch one episode, that's definitely a good contender. It is hilarious. Wraps his foot in saran wrap or bubble wrap. I can't remember which one it is. Take bubble wrap. I can see why people like listening to ASMR and why people like watching cooking videos, which sometimes, I mean, if I'm being honest with myself, I've spent way too much time watching cooking videos. Most of the time it's on YouTube or Facebook Shorts or something, or Instagram. But there are some creators that are so talented and make such good food, and sometimes they're really like funny and entertaining too, so it's like the best of all the worlds. Like, I just, yeah. It's such a fun thing. It's a fun hobby. And this chorizo is, man, it's looking really good. Just let it cook some of that liquid out. Just don't want it to burn. Also, if any of you have ever tried to make chocolate pudding, I made some chocolate pudding the other day. It was so good. If you've never tried to make it from scratch, you just look up recipes online. I use a New York Times recipe. It was really good. I know it's probably like much easier to just buy a pudding mix from the store and just make it that way. But the pudding was almost like a custard. It's really, really, really good. Very tasty stuff. I do need to get a big bowl out because I'm going to have to use a bowl to mash all these plantains up, so I'll get a big old bowl. And then maybe we can talk about Ecuadorian culture. Should always leave the door open for Ecuador. Okay. I know I said the chorizo is almost done, like, I don't know, 5 minutes ago. But it's getting really close now. And a good indication of it being like really close to being done is that it froths, like almost kind of like fluffs up. Of course, I guess that depends on the kind of chorizo that you're making. But you can see it kind of crackling a little bit. Delicious. It smells so good. And you hear the plantains popping, and pop, lock, and dropping. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay. Actually, I could probably turn the heat down just a little bit on that. And we've got 4 minutes before we flip these plantains over. Main plantain. And maybe I'm just dumb, but I am not sure how plantains are different than bananas. So here in just a minute, I'm actually going to share that information with the group. Okay, that chorizo is done. So pull that off. How are plantains different than bananas? Okay. Are you ready? So they're both members of the same family, the Musa genus, but they differ in several key aspects. Plantains are generally larger with a thicker skin and are starchier and less sweet. So if you're comparing people, you can say you're a banana and you're a plantain. You're starchier and less sweet. That's not very nice to say. They are often treated more like a vegetable in culinary uses, which typically requires cooking before consumption, whereas bananas are commonly eaten raw. Interesting. Flavor profile of plantains can vary. They are mild and starchy when unripe, becoming sweeter as they ripen. They never develop the same level of sweetness as bananas. In terms of nutrition, plantains contain more carbohydrates from starch, while bananas have more carbs from sugar. Additionally, plantains are a staple in many cuisines across Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa, and often used in more savory dishes, while bananas are more frequently associated with desserts and breakfast foods. When ripe, plantains can be caramelized or fried, offering a sweet flavor. If you ever buy plantain chips from the store, they're really good, so you should get some. But they are still distinct from the sweetness of a ripe banana. Okay, very cool. Very cool. And you can see, I'll show you here in just a second, this, you can see what the chorizo looks like after it's stopped bubbling. Just listen to the crackle of them plantains. Snap, crackle, I can't even really talk very well. I should go back to school. Okay. Also on another level, if any of you are interested in seeing the band Mumford & Sons, you should go, because it's an awesome show. And just do it, because it's what you should do. And for that matter, support any local musicians as well. My buddy John Keck Music, if you're going to look him up, he's playing a couple of shows around the area. So exciting stuff there. I have so many very talented friends, and that is a really cool benefit because I can enjoy their talent and appreciate their contribution to the world and to the people around them. And I am also one of those very fortunate people that have really good people in my life as friends. And not everybody can say that, so I feel very fortunate. And my family's wonderful. It's just a gratitude episode. Praise up. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn these plantains with the spatula. Ooh, it's getting some color on them. It's really nice. Okay, that is not working super well. Maybe I can stop being a total derp and put the phone down. Okay. Actually, these tongs, maybe, what is it? A good carpenter never blames their tools. Well, I'm blaming my tools. I'm not a good carpenter. And that is a myth, right? A myth is that if you buy really nice things, then you'll become better at whatever you're pursuing. I mean, if it helps you stay motivated to continue mastering whatever you're working on, then by all means. But it definitely does not make you better. In fact, I'm going to use the example of music. Buying really nice musical equipment can almost feel like you have more mastery of something than you actually do, because you're like, oh, the really like awesome people that do this have this stuff. And then it's like, oh, I'm just as good as them. And you're definitely not, because being good at anything takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And some people are just naturally more gifted than other people at certain things, but they still have to practice. So maybe it's just an encouragement to everybody, even outside of cooking. If you're trying something new and you feel discouraged, there is a hockey stick of proficiency where it's like the bottom, like the top is like, ooh, I'm encouraged because like I'm trying something new. And then you get really like realizing how bad you are at something, and then the hockey stick flips up. So you just have to get through that tough part. And once you do, then it's all gravy, baby. Just get her done. Okay. I am going to show you the plantains because they look nice and crispy. So there they are. And once we, like I said, once we cook these through, got about 28 more minutes, and don't worry, I won't excruciatingly keep everybody around, but I will read some stuff about Ecuador because that is the whole reason why we're here this week. Okay, so Ecuador's cuisine is diverse, varying with altitude, agricultural conditions, and the ethnic and racial makeup of local communities. The country's 3 distinct regions significantly shape eating patterns. The coastal region. This features abundant seafood, grilled steak, and chicken served with fried plantain, which is what we're having, rice and beans with ceviche and fish soup being traditional staples. So fish soup was another thing that I was considering making. I could not find the fish that I wanted to use, so I opted for what I could find. In the Andean highlands, cuisine favors meat, rice, and hominy, reflecting the mountainous terrain and agricultural possibilities. The Amazon jungle, indigenous communities traditionally consume chicha, made from cooked yucca that undergoes fermentation, creating a mildly alcoholic beverage typically prepared by women and served in the morning. Meal structure and timing. Most regions follow the traditional 3-course meal structure of soup, a second dish with rice or pasta and protein, followed by dessert. The main meal is usually in the middle of the day, and meal times are considered important for conversation, catching up on business, or socializing. So one theme that I've seen kind of run through all of these cultures and countries that we've cooked so far is, and I think I said this last week too, is that mealtime is kind of a sacred time. It's a time where people can get together and socialize and relate to each other and have conversation and bond and just spend good quality time with each other. So, more advocating for doing so. Historical and cultural influences. Ecuador's gastronomy, I like that word, is rooted in indigenous traditions and Spanish colonial influences, with Spanish colonization introducing new foods like pigs and goats to complement indigenous crops, like beans and avocados. This fusion created the diverse culinary landscape seen today. Dining etiquette and social customs. Continental-style dining is standard, fork in the left hand, knife in the right, with all food eaten using utensils, even fruit. Hospitality. Ecuadorians are known for their hospitality, with the custom of inviting strangers to share meals being normal practice. Meal initiation. Hosts typically say buen provecho, which means enjoy your meal. It's a signal guests to begin eating, with guests being served first. Social timing. When invited to dinner at 6 p.m., it's customary to arrive around 6:45, and formal dress is expected over casual attire to show respect to the hosts. Payment customs. At restaurants, splitting bills is uncommon. Typically, one person pays. Hopefully you've got a rich friend. With groups rotating who covers meals. Cultural significance of the food. Food plays a central role in Ecuadorian social life and religious observance. Religious and secular festivals throughout the year provide opportunities for special foods, parades, and celebrations. Every holiday is associated with special foods, and every town has its own specialty dish. The emphasis on family extends to food culture, with Ecuadorians placing great emphasis on family, including fictive kinship established through godparents at baptism, which influences how meals and celebrations are shared. Understanding Ecuadorian food culture means appreciating how geography, indigenous heritage, and Spanish colonial influence created a diverse culinary landscape where meals serve as important social gatherings. The formal dining etiquette, emphasis on hospitality, and regional specialties reflect a culture that values relationships, respect, and community connection through shared food experiences. So, yeah, a little bit about Ecuadorian food, cuisine, and all of those good things. Could probably go ahead and rotate these again. It's not quite 10 minutes, but some of them are looking like they might be browning a little bit too much. So I'm just going to flip them over and rotate. I also put a little bit more butter than they said to in the recipe because you can just never have enough butter. And by enough butter, I mean never enough. Like that song. Never enough. You all do like carpool karaoke and start singing a bunch of songs. No, then people would probably not be interested in this anymore. Not because I think I'm a horrible singer, but it'd probably be annoying. Okay, speaking of music, I know several times in these episodes I've talked about how like listening to the food as it's cooking is important. Maybe I'll kind of rotate some of these other ones on the outside in so you can kind of get that feeling. There we go. Nice. Let me show you once more. Looky there. Oh, if it ain't some plantains. Okay. Well, I am going to pause the video and I will be back in a little bit with some more. Stay tuned.